Welcome, listeners, to a tale of defiance, courage, and a planet that stood alone against an empire. This is the story of Clethera, forgotten world at the galaxy's edge, where the impossible became real. Settle in, hit that subscribe button, and let's dive into an epic journey across the stars. Clethera was no one's idea of paradise. Its air was thin, its red deserts endless, its sun weak but merciless. The galaxy had forgotten this speck on its outer rim, and the people of Clethera preferred it that way. For centuries, they'd carved out a life in the dust, bound by tradition, divided by tribes, and united by one unshakable truth: freedom was worth any price. The Cletherans were survivors, descendants of exiles who'd fled the core worlds long ago. Their tribes, the Sandweavers, Stonekin, and Skyborn, clashed over scraps of water and crystal, but they shared a fierce pride in their independence. They bowed to no one, not the crumbled galactic Concord, not the warlords of the inner systems, and certainly not the Viridian Empire, whose shadow now crept closer than ever. In a dusty settlement, where domed huts glowed under a violet sky, a woman named Alara Varn worked alone. She was a scientist, an outsider who'd traded the gleaming spires of the core for Clethera's hardships. The tribes tolerated her, but never embraced her. Lara didn't care. She was chasing a mystery buried deep beneath the planet's surface. Strange energy pulses that defied every law of physics she knew. "These readings aren't random," she muttered, her voice sharp with focus. "It's like the planets, alive." Her lab was a clutter of scavenged tech and flickering holodisplays, each one charting the faint rhythmic pulses from Clethera's core. She'd spent years here, driven by a hunch that this backwater world held secrets older than the stars. Meanwhile, in the cracked canyons beyond the settlement, a young man named Torin climbed alone. He was an outcast, even among outcasts, banished from the Skyborn tribe for reasons he kept locked inside. His cloak was ragged, his eyes bright, almost glowing, as he scanned the horizon. Torin wasn't like the others. He heard things, whispers low and resonant, rising from the ground. "Itself, what are you trying to tell me?" he whispered, pressing his hand to the warm stone. The planet answered with a faint hum, like a heartbeat echoing through the rock. Or Duran didn't understand it. Not yet, but he felt it a connection that made him feel less alone. High above, on a jagged cliff, stood Vera, High Priestess of the Stonekin. Her spear gleamed in the sunlight, her armor etched with runes of her people. She was a warrior, a leader forged in fire, guarding her tribe's sacred caves where crystals pulsed. With faint light, Vera believed Clethera was more than a planetit. It was a living spirit, one her people had sworn to protect. "We are its keepers," she said, her voice steady as she addressed her warriors. "And we will not falter." But the winds were changing. Far beyond Clethera's skies, in the cold void of space, a single Viridian scout ship slipped into orbit. Its hull was sleek, black as night, marked with the Empire's crimson sigil. The Viridians were conquerors, their fleets vast, their hunger endless. It subjugated entire systems, stripping worlds of resources and crushing any who resisted. Now their sensors had detected something on Clethera, something worth crossing the galaxy to claim. In the settlement, Lara's holodisplay pinged. She frowned, wiping sweat from her brow. A new signal, faint but unmistakable, had appeared in orbit. She cross-checked it, her heart sinking. "Viridian," she whispered. "They're here." Torin, miles away, felt a chill despite the desert heat. The whispers in the ground grew louder, urgent. He didn't know why, but he knew something was coming, something that would change Clethera forever. Vera, too, sensed the shift. From her cliff, she saw a streak of light in the sky, a ship, descending fast. She gripped her spear tighter, ready. "The tribes," she told her second-in-command, a grizzled warrior named Kale. "The storm is upon us." Clethera stood on the brink. Three souls, Zalera, Torin, and Vera, were about to be thrust into a war they couldn't imagine. A war not just for their home, but for the soul of the galaxy itself. The sun sank low, painting Clethera's dunes blood red. In her lab, Alara worked feverishly, her hands trembling as she calibrated her scanners. The Viridian scout ship had vanished from her readings, but she wasn't fooled. They were out there, watching, planning. She'd seen what the Empire did to worlds like hers, stripped them bare, left nothing but ash and slaves. "I won't let that happen here," she said, her voice firm despite the fear gnawing at her. She turned to her latest discovery. A shard of crystal, no bigger than her fist, unearthed from a dig site deep in the desert. It wasn't like the others the tribes traded. This one pulsed with a rhythm that matched the planet's strange signals. She held it up, its light casting eerie shadows across her face. "What are you?" she asked, half expecting an answer. The crystal hummed, and for a moment, she swore she heard a whisper not with her ears, but in her mind. She shook it off, blaming exhaustion. But the feeling lingered, a sense that this shard was more than a relic. It was a key out in the wastes. Torin crouched in a canyon's shadow, his breath shallow. The whispers were stronger now, almost words, guiding him toward a crevice in the rock. He didn't know why he trusted them, but he'd learned to listen. The Skyborn had called him cursed, said his visions were madness. Maybe they were right. But as he squeezed into the crevice, his hands found something smooth and cold, a slab of metal, buried for eons. "Who put you here?"
"Ice,"
he murmured. Tracing its surface, the slab vibrated, and the whispers became a voice, faint but clear. "Awaken." Torin stumbled back, heart pounding. He wasn't alone. The planet was speaking to him, and it had a purpose. In the Stoneken's sacred caves, Vera knelt before a crystal altar, its glow bathing her in soft light. Her warriors stood guard, their faces tense. The tribes had heard of the ship in the sky, and fear was spreading. The Sandweavers wanted to hide. The Skyborn wanted to negotiate. Only the Stoneken were ready to fight. "We cannot run," Vera told her council, her voice ringing with conviction. "Clythera is our home, our spirit. We fight for it or we lose everything." Kale, her second, crossed his arms. "The Empire's fleets are endless, Vera. We have spears and crystals. They have starships. Then we use what we have," she snapped. "The desert is ours. The caves are ours. We know this land better than they ever will." But doubt lingered in her heart. She'd seen the Empire's cruelty in visions, sent by the crystals her people revered. Clythera was hiding something, something the Empire wanted, and she'd die before letting them take it. That night, tribes gathered in a rare council, their leaders shouting over each other in a domed hall. Alara stood at the edge, an outsider still, clutching her crystal shard. She'd come to warn them, to share her findings, but the tribes barely listened. "The signals are growing stronger," she said, her voice cutting through the noise. "There's something under the planet, something the Empire's after. We need to understand it before they do." The Sandweaver chief scoffed. "Your machines mean nothing, Offworlder. You survive by staying hidden. Hide from this." Alara held up the shard, its light pulsing. The room fell silent. "This isn't just a crystal. It's connected to Clythera itself. We ignore it. The Empire won't." Torin slipped into the hall, unnoticed, his cloak hiding his face. He'd followed the whispers here, drawn by the shard's glow. It called to him, just like the slab in the desert. He wanted to speak, to tell them what he'd heard, but fear held him back. Who'd believe an outcast? Vera stepped forward, her eyes locked on the shard. "If this is true," she said, "then we must protect it. But we cannot do it divided." ... Council erupted again, voices clashing until a low rumble shook the hall. What an earthquake a ship, massive, its engines roaring overhead. The Empire wasn't waiting. Ilara gripped the shard tighter. Torin felt the planet's voice surge, urgent, defend. Vera raised her spear, her resolve hardening. Clethra's time was running out. The war was here, and 3 unlikely souls were its only hope. The rumble of the Viridian ship shook the domed hall where Clythera's tribes argued. Dust sifted from the ceiling, and the air grew thick with fear. Outside, the violet sky darkened as the massive vessel blotted out the stars. It wasn't a scout ship anymore, this was a warship, its hull bristling with cannons, its engines humming with menace. The Viridian Empire had come. and it wasn't here to negotiate. Ilara clutched the pulsing crystal shard, its light flickering in her hands. She stood at the edge of the tribal council, her voice drowned out by the chaos. The Sandweaver chief, a wiry man named Soren, shouted for surrender. "We cannot fight starships," he cried. "We offer tribute, we survive. That's the way of it." The Skyborn elder, a woman with silver braids named Lyrian, shook her head. "The Empire doesn't want tribute. They want everything. They should flee to the deep caves and wait them out." Vera slammed her spear against the stone floor, the sound cutting through the noise. "Flee? Surrender? Have you forgotten who we are?" Her voice was steel. "Clythera is our home, our spirit. We fight or we die as cowards." The room fell silent, but the tension was electric. Ilara stepped forward, holding up the crystal. Its glow pulsed faster as if sensing the danger. "This is what they're after," she said. "These signals, this shard, they're tied to something deep in the planet. If we give it up, Clythera's finished. But if we understand it, we might have a chance." Soren scoffed. "Your off-worlder nonsense will get us killed, scientists. You don't belong here." Torin, still hidden in the shadows, clenched his fists. He wanted to speak, to tell them about the whispers, the metal slab he'd found in the desert. But the Skyborn had cast him out, called him cursed. Why would they listen now? Yet the planet's voice was louder than ever, urging him forward. "Speak," it said. Unite before he could move. A new sound split the air, a piercing whine, followed by a blast that shook the hall. Screams erupted outside. Vera was the first to react, sprinting toward the exit, her warriors at her heels. "Defend the settlement," she shouted. "Two arms." Ilara shoved the crystal into her satchel and followed, her heart pounding. Slipped out behind her, unnoticed, drawn by the same instinct that had led him to the slab. Outside, chaos reigned. The Viridian warship hovered low, its floodlights bathing the settlement in harsh white. Smaller craft attack drones swarmed like insects, firing plasma bolts into the domed huts. Clytherans ran, some clutching children, others grabbing makeshift weapons. The air smelled of scorched metal and fear. Vera rallied her Stonekin warriors, their spears and slings no match for the drone's firepower. But they fought anyway, using the terrain rallies, low walls, to their advantage. A drone swooped low, and Vera hurled her spear, piercing its core. It crashed in a shower of sparks. "Keep them moving," she yelled to Kale, her second in command. "Don't let them pin us down." Lara ducked behind a crumbled wall, her mind racing. The drones weren't random. They were targeting the settlement's water stores and power hubs. The Empire wasn't here to conquer yet. They were softening Clythera up, testing its defenses. "We need to disrupt their comms," she muttered, pulling a handheld scanner from her belt. "If I can hack their frequency," Torn appeared beside her, startling her. His eyes were wide, almost glowing in the dark. "The planet knows they're here," he said, his voice low. "It's angry." Ilara stared at him. "What are you talking about? Who are you?" "Toron," he said simply. "And you're the one with the crystal. It's talking to you too, isn't it?" Before she could answer, a drone spotted them, its cannon charging. Torin grabbed her arm, pulling her into an alley as the wall exploded behind them, in the skies above. The Viridian warship's commander, Admiral Korath, watched the chaos through a holodisplay. He was a cold man, his face scarred from a dozen campaigns. His orders were clear. Secure the energy source beneath Clythera, no matter the cost. "Primitive," he sneered, watching the Clytherans scatter. "Send the ground troops. Let's end this quickly." Back on the ground, Vera led a counterattack, her warriors using crystal-tipped arrows to disable drones. But for every one they downed, two more appeared. The Sandweavers were fleeing, the Skyborn hiding. Only the Stonekin stood their ground, and they were dying for it. "We can't hold them here." Kale shouted, blood streaming from a gash on his arm. "We need to fall back to the caves." Vera's jaw tightened. Retreat felt like betrayal, but she saw the truth. "Regroup at the sacred caves," she ordered. "Spread the word. Every tribe, every fighter." We make our stand there. As the Clitherans fled into the night, Alara and Turan ran through the burning settlement, dodging plasma fire. The crystal in Alara's satchel pulsed hotter, almost burning her side. Torin's whispers grew louder, guiding him toward the desert. "We have to go deeper," he said, his voice urgent. "The answers are there." Alara hesitated. She was a scientist, not a mystic. But the crystal, the signals, Torin's certainty, was all too much to dismiss. "Lead the way," she said finally, as the Empire's shadow tightened its grip. Clothora's people scattered, their hope dwindling. But beneath the planet's surface, something was stirring, something that would change everything. The desert, stretched endless under Clothora's twin moons, their light casting eerie shadows across the dunes. Torin led Alara through a maze of canyons, his steps sure despite the darkness. The crystal in her satchel hummed, its rhythm matching the whispers in his mind. Behind them, the settlement burned, a distant glow against the sky. The Empire's drones had stopped their assault, but the silence was worse. It meant the ground troops were coming. "Where are we going?" Alara asked, her breath ragged. "This is madness. We should be with the others." Torin didn't look back. "The planet's calling us. You feel it too. The shard in your bag, it's part of something bigger." Alara wanted to argue, but the crystal's heat was undeniable, pulsing in time with her heartbeat. She'd spent years studying Clithora's anomalies, dismissing the tribe's myths about a living planet. Now, she wasn't so sure. They reached the crevice where Turan had found the metal slab. It was still there, half buried, its surface etched with faint glowing runes. Alara knelt beside it, her scanner worry. "This isn't Clitheran tech," she said, her voice hushed. "It's older, pre-galactic maybe." "The energy signature matches the crystal." Turan touched the slab, and the whispers surged. "Open," they said. "Awaken." He pressed both hands against it, and the runes flared brighter. The ground trembled, and the slab slid aside, revealing a tunnel descending into darkness. "You're not serious," Alara said, staring into the void. "You want answers?" Torin replied. "They're down there." Against her better judgment, she followed him. The tunnel was narrow, its walls smooth and warm, as if carved by something alive. The crystal's glow lit their way, casting shadows that seemed to move on their own. Miles away, Vera led the Stonekin to the sacred caves, where crystal formations pulsed like veins. The surviving Sandweavers and Skyborn had joined them there, leaders sullen but desperate. The caves were a fortress, carved deep into Clithora's mountains. But Vera knew they couldn't hide forever. "We need a plan," she told the gathered tribes. "The Empire will find us here. We fight as one, or we fall." Lyrian, the Skyborn elder, shook her head. "You Stonekin are fools. You'll drag us all to our deaths." "Then leave," Vera snapped. "But know this, Clythera is alive. It speaks through the crystals, through the caves. It will fight with us, if we let it." The tribes murmured, torn between fear and hope. Kale approached, his arm bandaged. "Vera, the Offworlder and the outcast, they're gone." "Them leave." Vera frowned. Alara's crystal, Torin's, strange intensity? She didn't trust them, but she felt their importance. "Find them," she said. "They may be our only chance." Deep beneath the desert, Alara and Torin reached the end of the tunnel. It opened into a vast chamber, its walls lined with crystals that pulsed in unison, bathing the space in soft light. At the center stood a massive structure, a spire of metal and crystal, humming with energy. Lara's scanner went wild, readings off the charts. "This is it," she whispered. "The source of the signals. It's alive." Torin approached. The spire, his hand trembling as he touched it. The whispers became a voice, clear and ancient. "I am Clythera," it said. "I have slept for millennia, but now I wake. You are my chosen." Alara froze. "Did you hear that?" Torin nodded. "It's the heart of the planet. It's been waiting for us." The spire flared, and a vision flooded their minds. A galaxy-spanning civilization, long extinct, that had built Clythera as a guardian, a sentient world designed to protect a secret. The crystals, the signals, the slab, they were all part of a network, a weapon capable of reshaping reality itself. But it needed a spark, a will to wield it. The Empire can't have this, Alara said, her voice shaking. They'd burn the galaxy to ashes. Then we use it, Torrens said. We fight. As they stood before the heart of Clethera, the ground shook again, not from the spire, but from above. The Empire's ground troops had landed, their war. Machines marching toward the caves. Time was running out, and Clethera's fate rested in the hands of two outcasts and a planet that was ready to fight back. The sacred caves of Clethera pulsed with crystal light, their glow a faint comfort against the fear gripping the tribes. Hundreds had fled here, Stonekin warriors, Sandweaver families, even a few Skyborn who'd swallowed their pride. Vera stood at the cave's entrance, her spear in hand, watching the horizon. The desert was still, but she knew it was a lie. The Empire was coming, and the ground trembled with their approach. We're outnumbered, Kale, her second in command, said his voice low. Their machines will crush us. Vera's eyes narrowed. Then we don't fight like them. We fight like Cletherans fast, clever, unseen. She turned to the gathered tribes, their faces etched with doubt. The Sandweaver chief, Soren, clutched his staff, muttering about surrender. Lyrian, the Skyborn elder, stood silent, her silver braids glinting in the crystal light. Vera raised her voice, letting it echo through the caves. This is our home, she said. The Empire thinks us weak, but they don't know Clethera. They don't know us. We strike first, we strike hard, and we show them this planet is not theirs to take. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Not all were convinced, but fear was giving way to defiance. Vera divided them into groups, Stonekin to lead ambushes, Sandweavers to set traps, Skyborn to scout from the cliffs. They had no starships, no plasma cannons, but they had the desert. And they had each other, miles away, in the heart of Clethera's core. Ilara and Torrens stood before the sentient spire. Its crystals pulsed like a heartbeat, bathing them in soft light. The planet's voice was clear now, speaking to Torrens, whispering to Ilara through her crystal shard. It had shown them fragments of its purpose, guardian built by a lost civilization, to protect a power that could alter the stars themselves. But it needed them to wield it. We can't just turn this into a weapon, Ilara said, her voice trembling. The energy readings are beyond anything I've seen. If we mess this up, we could destroy Clethera, not save it. Torrens' eyes locked on the spire. The planet chose us for a reason. It's not asking us to destroy, it's asking us to fight. The spire hummed, and a new vision flashed. Clethera's surface, scarred by war, but alive, its crystals amplifying the will of its people. Torrens saw himself leading warriors, Ilara harnessing the planet's energy, Vera standing as its shield. The vision faded, but its message lingered. Unity was their strength. We need to find the others, Lara said, slinging her satchel over her shoulder. Vera's people have to know what's down here. Torrens nodded, but the planet's voice stopped him. Prepare, it said. The enemy is near. The ground shook, not from the spire, but from above boots, machines. The Empire's army marching. On the surface, Vera's scouts returned, breathless. They're here, a young Skyborn said. Tanks, walkers, thousands of troops. They're heading for the caves. Vera's plan was simple. Draw the Empire into the canyons, where Clethera's terrain would turn their strength against them. The Sandweavers had rigged trap spitfalls, lined with crystal shards. Dunes rigged to collapse. The Stonekin waited in ambush, their spears and bows ready. The Skyborn watched from above, signaling with mirrors. The Empire's forces appeared at dawn. A line of black-armored troops and towering walkers, their legs kicking up red dust. Admiral Korath commanded from the warship above, his voice crackling. Through the troops comes. Crush their resistance, he said coldly. Leave no one alive. The Cletherans struck first. Sandweaver triggered a trap, collapsing a dune onto a squad of troops. Crystal shards exploded upward, piercing armor. Stonekin archers fired from the cliffs, their arrows tipped with glowing fragments that burned through metal. The Empire's walkers fired back, plasma bolts scorching the sand, but the Clithrans were ghost-striking, vanishing, striking again. Vera led a charge, her spear flashing as she took down a soldier. "For Clythera," she roared, and her warriors echoed her cry. The battle was chaos, but it was theirs. For every Clithran who fell, 10 Imperials paid the price. The canyons ran red with blood, and the Empire's advance stalled. Ilara and Turan emerged from the tunnel, the sounds of battle reaching them. Ilara's scanner picked up the Empire's comms. Fragmented but clear, they were regrouping, calling for reinforcements. "We need to disrupt their machines," Ilara said, her mind racing. The crystallit might amplify a signal, overload. "Their systems." Torin touched the shard in her hand, and the planet's voice surged. "Guide them," it said. He closed his eyes, and the crystal flared, sending a pulse through the air. Nearby Imperial walkers sputtered, their legs freezing mid-step. Troops clutched their helmets, come screeching static. It worked. Ilara gasped. "What?" "Temporary. We need to reach Vera." They ran toward the caves, the crystal guiding them like a beacon. The Clithrans had won the first battle, but the war was just beginning. As the sun rose, painting the desert gold, hope flickered in there. Heart's Clythera was fighting back. The Empire's retreat was a bitter thing, their walkers limping back to their landing zone, troops dragging wounded through the dust. Vera stood on a cliff, watching them go. Her spear was slick with blood, her armor scorched, but her eyes burned with resolve. The Clithrans had drawn first blood, but she knew the cost. Dozens of her people lay dead in the canyons, their bodies wrapped in cloaks for burial. "We hurt them," Kale said, standing beside her, "but they'll come back stronger." "Then we'll be ready," Vera replied. "The planet is with us. I feel it."
"Oh, yes."
In the sacred caves, the tribes gathered, their mood a mix of grief and defiance. Soren, the Sandweaver chief, was quieter now, his talk of surrender silenced by the victory. Lyrian, the Skyborn elder, offered her scouts full support. For the first time, the tribes were uniting, bound by the blood they'd spilled together. Ilara and Torin arrived breathless, the crystal shard glowing in Ilara's hand. Vera met them at the cave's entrance, her gaze sharp. "Where have you been?" she demanded. "We needed every fighter." "Found something," Ilara said, holding up the shard. "Clythera isn't just a planet, it's alive. Its core is sentient, and it's fighting with us." The tribes murmured, some skeptical, others awed. Vera took the shard, feeling its warmth. "The crystals have always spoken to us," she said. "But this, how do we use it?" Torin stepped forward, his voice steady despite the eyes on him. "The planet chose Accelera, you, me. It showed me visions, can amplify its power. Turn the desert itself against the Empire," Soren scoffed. "An outcast and an off-worlder? You expect us to trust them?" "Trust the planet," Vera said, silencing him. "They've proven themselves." "Speak, Ilara," Lara explained the spire. "The ancient network, the crystal's ability to disrupt Imperial tech." "We can build amplifiers," she said. "Place them across the desert, channel Clythera's energy. It won't win the war, but it'll give us an edge." The tribes agreed, their resolve hardening. The Sandweavers offered crystals Skyborn mapped. The desert Stoneakin guarded the workers. Ilara led the effort, her scientific mind blending with Clitheran ingenuity. Torn worked beside her, guided by the planet's whispers, placing amplifiers at precise points where the energy was strongest. But the Empire wasn't idle. Admiral Korath, aboard his warship, studied the battle's data. The Clitheran's tactics baffled him, primitive, yet effective. And the sudden failure of his walker's systems gnawed at him. "They have technology we didn't anticipate," he told his lieutenant, a sharp-eyed woman named Viarn. "Find its source. Burn it out." Viaran deployed scout drones, their sensors, sweeping the desert, and found an amplifier, its crystal pulsing. Before it could report back, the ground opened beneath it, swallowing the drone whole. Clythera was watching. Days passed, the tribes working in secret, the Empire probing their defenses. Then, at dusk, the attack came. A new wave of Imperial forces, twice the size of the first, marched across the desert, backed by airships and heavy artillery, Korath's orders were brutal. Raze everything. Leave no survivors. Vera led the defense, her warriors striking from the shadows. The amplifiers flared, guided by Tauren's connection to the planet. Naturals erupted, unnatural, and fierce, blinding the Empire's troops. Walkers toppled into crevices that opened without warning. The desert itself was a weapon. Clithera's wrath was merciless. Alara manned a control hub in the caves, her screens tracking the amplifier's energy. "It's working," she shouted. "The planet's responding." But the Empire pressed on, their numbers overwhelming. A stray artillery strike hit an amplifier, shattering its crystal. The network faltered, and the sandstorms weakened. Vera's warriors were pushed back, blood soaking the sand. "We're losing ground," Kale's voice crackled through Elorez. "Come, we need more power." Tauren knelt beside the spire's tunnel, the planet's voice roaring in his mind. "Sacrifice," it said. "Give yourself to me." He didn't hesitate. He touched the nearest crystal, letting its energy surge through him. His body glowed, his eyes blazing as the network surged back to life. The desert roared, a massive vortex of sand engulfing the Imperial army. Walkers were buried, airships crashed, troops vanished into the storm. When the dust settled, the Empire's forces were broken, their survivors fleeing in panic. Tauren collapsed, his breath shallow. Alara rushed to him, her heart pounding. "What did you do?" she whispered. He smiled faintly. "I listened." Vera stood atop the caves, watching the Empire retreat again. But she knew this was no final victory. Korath was still out there, and he'd return with everything he had. Clethera had won another battle, but the war was far from over. The sacred caves were a sanctuary, their crystal walls pulsing softly, as if Clethera itself were breathing. But the air inside was heavy with tension. The Tribestone, Sandweavers, Skyborn had fought as one, their victory over the Empire's second wave still fresh. Yet, as the survivors tended their wounds and buried their dead, old rivalries stirred like dust in the wind. Vera stood before the tribal council. Her armor dented, her spear propped against the wall. Her voice was steady, but her eyes betrayed exhaustion. "We've shown the Empire we can fight," she said. "Clethera is with us, its heart, its crystals. But we must stay united, or we'll fall." Soren, the Sandweaver chief, leaned forward, his face twisted with doubt. "United for how long, priestess? Your Stonican led us into battle, and now half my people are dead. We followed your plan, and what do we have?" "More graves." Therian, the Skyborn elder, nodded grimly. "My scouts report more ships in orbit. The Empire's not retreating. They're regrouping. Can't keep throwing lives away." Vera's jaw tightened. "You think hiding will save us? The Empire wants the planet's core. They'll burn every cave, every dune, until they have it." The argument grew heated, voices echoing off the crystal walls. In the shadows, Alara worked at a makeshift console, her fingers flying over controls as she monitored the amplifiers spread across the desert. The crystal shard sat beside her, its glow steady but faint. Tauren, still weak from channeling Clethoris, energy sat nearby, his eyes distant. "They don't understand," he muttered. "The planet's trying to help us, but they're too busy fighting each other." Alara glanced at him, her brow furrowed. "They're scared, Tauren. They've never faced anything like this. Neither have we." She adjusted a dial, and her screen showed the amplifier's network dozens of crystal nodes pulsing in sync with Clethera's core. The last battle had proven their power, turning the desert into a weapon, but the network was fragile. One destroyed amplifier had nearly collapsed it. She needed more time, more crystals, more trust from the tribes. Outside, the desert was quiet, but the Empire was far from idle. Aboard the warship Iron Dominion, Admiral Korath studied a holomap of Clethera, his scarred face unreadable. "Yes." Lieutenant Viarin stood at attention, her sharp eyes scanning reports. "Their technology is crude but effective," she said. "The energy surges match no known signature. It's like the planet itself is fighting us." Korath's lips curled into a sneer. "A planet can't fight. It's their leaders we need to break. Find their strongholds. Turn their own people against them. Viren hesitated. Sir, our scouts detected a traitor among the natives. One of the Skyborn, a warrior named Arachan. He's offered information in exchange for safety. Korath's eyes gleamed. Him to me. Back in the caves, Vera faced a new challenge. A young Stonekin warrior, barely 16, approached her, his face pale. Priestess, the Skyborn, are whispering about leaving. They say the caves aren't safe anymore. Vera's heart sank. The Skyborn had always been proud, distrustful. If they broke away, the others might follow. She found Lyrian near a crystal formation, her hands tracing its glow. Is it true? Vera asked. Are you abandoning us? Cold, not abandoning, surviving. The Empire will find these caves. My people won't die for your war. It's not my war, Vera snapped. It's Clitheris. You felt the crystals, saw the storms. The planet chose us all. Lyrian turned away. The planet didn't choose me. As night fell, Alara and Torin ventured into the desert. To repair a damaged amplifier, air was cold, the twin moons casting long shadows. Torin's connection to Clethera was stronger now, as the whispers guiding his every step. It's like a map in my head, he said, kneeling beside a crystal. Node. The planet shows me where to go. Lara wired the node, her hands steady despite the danger. If we can stabilize the network, we might hold them off longer. But we need the tribes to work together. A rustle in the dark made them freeze. Figures emerged, Skyborn scouts, their faces hidden by hoods. One stepped forward, his voice low. You're the outcast, the offworlder. You're causing this war. Torin stood, his hand on a dagger. The Empire started this, not us. The scout drew a blade, but before he could strike, the ground rumbled. The crystal nearby flared, and a gust of sand knocked the scouts back. Clythera was protecting them. Run, Lara shouted, grabbing Torin. They fled, the planet's voice urging them to the caves. But the encounter left a bitter truth. The tribes were fracturing, and someone was betraying them. Dawn broke over Clethera, the desert scarred from battle. In the sacred caves, Vera gathered the tribes, her voice heavy with urgency. The Empire knows we're here, she said. Someone's feeding them information. We find the traitor, or we lose everything. Soren pointed at Alara. It's her. The Offworlder brought this upon us with her machines. Alara stepped forward, the crystal shard glowing in her hand. I've risked everything for Clythera. If you want to blame someone, look to your own. Teren, still shaken from the desert. Attack, scanned the crowd. The Skyborn avoided his gaze, their silence damning. He felt Clethera's voice, faint but clear. Beware the one who hides. Vera noticed his tension. Speak, outcast, she said. You know something. Torin hesitated, then pointed to a Skyborn warrior in the back of Arachan, a tall man with a scar across his cheek. He was in the desert last night. He tried to kill us. The crowd erupted, accusations flying. Ren's eyes widened, but he didn't deny it. Instead, he drew his blade and lunged at Vera. Kale tackled him, pinning him to the ground. Why? Vera demanded, her spear at Ren's throat. Rant spat. The Empire promised safety for my family. You can't win this war, priestess. You're leading us to death? Lyrian stepped forward, her face pale. Ratchan acted alone. The Skyborn didn't know. But the damage was done. Trust shattered. The tribes turned on each other. Sandweavers accused Skyborn. Stonekin accused Sandweavers. Vera raised her voice, silencing them. Enough. She roared. The Empire wants us divided. Ratchan betrayed us, but he's one man. We are Clytheris people. We fight as one, or we die alone. Reluctantly, the tribes agreed to stay, but the air was thick with suspicion. Vera ordered Arachan bound and guarded, his fate to be decided later. Aboard the Iron Dominion, Admiral Korath met Ren's contact, a holotransmission from a Skyborn traitor who'd escaped capture. The caves are their stronghold, the traitor said. But they're weak, divided. Strike now. Korath smiled coldly. Prepare the siege engines. We end this today. In the desert, Ilara and Torin worked frantically, reinforcing the amplifier network. The planet's voice was louder now, guiding Torin to hidden crystal veins. Each node they activated strengthened Clitheris' power, but it wasn't enough. Ilara's scans showed a massive Imperial force approaching siege towers. Heavy artillery, thousands of troops. We need more time, Ilara said, her voice desperate. The network's not ready. Torin touched a crystal in Clitheris. Voice surged. Unleash me, it said. He closed his eyes, letting the energy flow through him again. The ground shook, and a pulse of light shot through the desert, linking the amplifiers. Vera in the caves felt the tremor. The crystals on the walls flared, and her warriors cheered. Planet fights with us, she shouted. Hold the line. The Empire's siege began at midday, towers rolling across the dunes, cannons blasting the cliffs. Clitherans fought back, using traps and guerrilla tactics, but the enemy was relentless. A tower breached the cave's outer defenses, its doors. Opening to release shock troops, Vera led the charge, her spear a blur, but the Imperials were too many. Kale fell, a plasma bolt burning through his chest. Vera screamed, cutting down the soldier responsible, but the line was breaking. Then the amplifiers roared to life. The desert erupted, sand swirling into a massive vortex. Crystals glowed, sending pulses that fried Imperial circuits. Siege towers collapsed, troops scattered. Clythera was awake, and its wrath was unstoppable. Ilara and Torin reached the caves, exhausted but alive. Torin's body glowed faintly, the planet's energy taxing him. It's not enough, he gasped. Core needs more, it needs us. All. Vera, bloodied but unbowed, looked at her people. The traitor's blade had cut deep, but Clithera's heart was stronger. We fight together, she said. For Kale, for our home, for the planet that chose us. As the Empire regrouped, a new signal pulsed from Clithera's core, stronger than ever. The war was escalating, and the planet's true power was only beginning to awaken. The sacred caves were a fortress of crystal and stone, but they felt like a tomb to Vera. The air was thick with grief, the tribes mourning their fallen Kale's death, a wound that cut deepest. She stood alone by his wrapped body, her spear resting against the wall. Her warriors had fought bravely, Clithera's desert had roared with vengeance, but the Empire's shadow loomed larger than ever. We can't keep this up, she whispered, her voice cracking. Kale, what would you do? The crystal walls pulsed faintly, as if answering her. Vera closed her eyes, feeling Clithera's presence stronger now, alive with purpose. It had saved them in the last battle, but at a cost. Torin lay weak, his body strained from channeling the planet's energy. Ilar's amplifiers were stretched thin. The tribe's unity hung by a thread in the main chamber. Ilara worked at her console, her face lit by the glow of her crystal shard. Torin's visions and the Spire's revelations had confirmed it. Clythera was no ordinary world, but it was a guardian built by a civilization long gone, tasked with protecting a power that could bend reality itself. But the how eluded her. She needed to know more about the builders, their technology, their fate. Torin, she said, glancing at him. You've seen visions? Has the planet shown you anything about who made it? Torin sat cross-legged, his breath shallow. His eyes, still faintly glowing, met hers. Fragments, he said softly. Cities of light, spires taller than mountains. They called themselves the Aetherbud. They're gone. The planet doesn't say why. Lara frowned. Asterisk. If we're going to use the core, we need to understand their technology. One wrong move, and we could tear Clythera apart. The tribes gathered for another council, their voices quieter now, tempered by loss. Sorin, the Sandweaver chief, was subdued, his doubt replaced by reluctant resolve. Lyrian, the Skyborn elder, spoke for her people, her voice steady despite the shame of Ren's betrayal. We stay, Lyrian said. But we need a plan, priestess. The Empire knows where we're at. They'll bring everything they have. Vera nodded. The planet's power is our only chance. In the shadows, Ilara worked at a makeshift console, her fingers flying over controls as she monitored the amplifiers spread across the desert. The crystal shard sat beside her, its glow steady but faint. Torin, still weak from channeling Clitheris, energy sat nearby, his eyes distant. "They don't understand," he muttered. "The planet's trying to help us, but they're too busy fighting each other." Ilara glanced at him, her brow furrowed. "They're scared, Torin. They've never faced anything like this. Neither have we." She adjusted a dial, and her screen showed the amplifier's network, dozens of crystal nodes pulsing in sync with Clitheris' core. The last battle had proven their power, turning the desert into a weapon, but the network was fragile. One destroyed amplifier had nearly collapsed it. She needed more time, more crystals, more trust from the tribes. Outside, desert was quiet, but the Empire was far from idle. Aboard the warship Iron Dominion, Admiral Korath studied a holomap of Clethera, his scarred face unreadable. Lieutenant Viren stood at attention, her sharp eyes scanning reports. "Their technology is crude, but effective," she said. "The energy surges match no known signature. It's like the planet itself is fighting us." Korath's lips curled. Into a sneer, "A planet can't fight. It's their leaders we need to break. Find their strongholds. Turn their own people against them." Viren hesitated. "Sir, our scouts detected a traitor among the natives. One of the Skyborn, a warrior named Arachon. He's offered information in exchange for safety." Korath's eyes gleamed. "Bring him to me." Back in the caves, Vera faced a new challenge. A young Stonekan warrior, barely 16, approached her, his face pale. "Priestess, the Skyborn are whispering about leaving. They say the caves aren't safe anymore." Vera's heart sank. The Skyborn had always been proud, distrustful. If they broke away, the others might follow. She found Lyrian near a crystal formation, her hands tracing its glow. "Is it true?" Vera asked. "Are you abandoning us?" Lyrian's voice was cold, "Not abandoning, surviving. The Empire will find these caves. My people won't die for your war." "It's not my war," Vera snapped. "It's Clitheris. You felt the crystals, saw the storms. The planet chose us all." Lyrian turned away. "The planet didn't choose me." As night fell, Ilara and Torin ventured into the desert to repair a damaged amplifier. Air was cold, the twin moons casting long shadows. Torin's connection to Clethera was stronger now, the whispers guiding his every step. "It's like a map in my head," he said, kneeling beside a crystal node. "The planet shows me where to go." Lara wired the node, her hands steady despite the danger. "We can stabilize the network. We might hold them off longer. But we need the tribes to work together." A rustle in the dark made them freeze. Figures emerged, Skyborn scouts, their faces hidden by hoods. One stepped forward, his voice low. "You're the outcast. The Offworlder. You're causing this war." Torin stood, his hand on a dagger. "The Empire started this, not us." The scout drew a blade, but before he could strike, the ground rumbled. A crystal nearby flared, and a gust of sand knocked the scouts back. Clethera was protecting them. "Run," Ilara shouted, grabbing Torin. They fled, the planet's voice urging them to the caves. But the encounter left a bitter truth. The tribes were fracturing, and someone was betraying them. Dawn broke over Clethera, the desert scarred from battle. In the sacred caves, Vera gathered the tribes, her voice heavy with urgency. "The Empire knows we're here," she said. "Someone's feeding them information. We find the traitor, or we lose everything." Soren pointed at Ilara. "It's her. The Offworlder brought this upon us with her machines." Ilara stepped forward, the crystal shard glowing in her hand. "I've risked everything for Clethera. If you want to blame someone, look to your own." Torin, still shaken from the desert, scanned the crowd. The Skyborn avoided his gaze, their silence damning. He felt Clethera's voice, faint but clear. "Beware the one who hides." Vera noticed his tension. "Speak, outcast," she said. "You know something?" Turan hesitated, then pointed to a Skyborn warrior in the back of Rajan, a tall man with a scar across his cheek. "He was in the desert last night. He tried to kill us. The crowd erupted, accusations flying. Ren's eyes widened, but he didn't deny it. Instead, he drew his blade and lunged at Vera. Kale tackled him, pinning him to the ground. "Why?" Vera demanded, her spear at Ren's throat. Rachin spat. "The Empire promised safety for my family. You can't win this war, priestess. You're leading us to death?" Lyrian stepped forward, her face pale. Rachin acted alone. The Skyborn didn't know. But the damage was done. Trust shattered. The tribes turned on each other. Sandweavers accused Skyborn. Stoneakin accused Sandweavers. Vera raised her voice, silencing them. "Enough," she roared. "The Empire wants us divided. Rachin betrayed us, but he's one man. We are Clitheris people. We fight as one, or we die alone." Reluctantly, the tribes agreed to stay, but the air was thick with suspicion. Vera ordered Rachin bound and guarded, his fate to be decided later. Aboard the Iron Dominion Admiral, Korath met Ren's contact, a holotransmission from a Skyborn trader who'd escaped capture. "The caves are their stronghold," the trader said. "But they're weak, divided. Strike now." Korath smiled coldly. "Prepare the siege engines. We end this today." In the desert, Alara and Toran worked frantically, reinforcing the amplifier network. The planet's voice was louder now, guiding Toran to hidden crystal veins. Each node they activated strengthened Clitheris' power, but it wasn't enough. Alara's scans showed a massive Imperial force approaching siege towers. Heavy artillery, thousands of troops. "We need more time," Alara said, her voice desperate. "The network's not ready." Toran touched a crystal in Clitheris. Voice surged. "Unleash me," it said. He closed his eyes, letting the energy flow through him again. The ground shook, and a pulse of light shot through the desert. Linking the amplifiers, Vera in the caves felt the tremor. The crystals on the walls flared, and her warriors cheered. "The planet fights with us," she shouted.
"Hold the line!"
The Empire's siege began at midday, towers rolling across the dunes, cannons blasting the cliffs. Clitherans fought back, using traps and guerrilla tactics, but the enemy was relentless. Tower breached the cave's outer defenses, its doors. Opening to release shock troops, Vera led the charge, her spear a blur, but the Imperials were too many. Kale fell, a plasma bolt burning through his chest. Vera screamed, cutting down the soldier responsible, but the line was breaking. Then the amplifiers roared to life. The desert erupted, sand swirling into a massive vortex. Crystals glowed, sending pulses that fried Imperial circuits. Siege towers collapsed, troops scattered. Claythero was awake, and its wrath was unstoppable. Ilara and Toran reached the caves, exhausted but alive. Toran's body glowed faintly, the planet's energy taxing him. "It's not enough," he gasped.
Ow.
"The core needs more, it needs us." All, Vera, bloodied but unbowed, looked at her people. The traitor's blade had cut deep, but Clithera's heart was stronger. "We fight together," she said. "For Kale, for our home, for the planet that chose us." As the Empire regrouped, a new signal pulsed from Clithera's core, stronger than ever. The war was escalating, and the planet's true power was only beginning to awaken. The sacred caves were a fortress of crystal and stone, but they felt like a tomb to Vera. The air was thick with grief. The tribes mourning their falling Kales, death a wound that cut deepest. She stood alone by his wrapped body, her spear resting against the wall. Her warriors had fought bravely. Clethora's desert had roared with vengeance. But the Empire's shadow loomed larger than ever. "We can't keep this up," she whispered, her voice cracking. "Kale, what would you do?" The crystal walls pulsed faintly, as if answering her. Vera closed her eyes, feeling Clithera's presence stronger now, alive with purpose. It had saved them in the last battle, but at a cost. Toran lay weak, his body strained from channeling the planet's energy. Alara's amplifiers were stretched thin, and the tribe's unity hung by a thread in the main chamber. Lara worked at her console, her face lit by the glow of her crystal shard. Toran's visions and the Spire's revelations had confirmed Clithera was no ordinary world, but it was a guardian built by a civilization long gone, tasked with protecting a power that could bend reality itself. But the how eluded her. She needed to know more about the builders, their technology, their fate. Toron, she said, glancing at him, you've seen visions. Has the planet shown you anything about who made it? Toron sat cross-legged, his breath shallow. Winra, with the Congren whaler. Eyes, still faintly glowing, met hers. Fragments, he said softly. Cities of light, spires taller than mountains. They called themselves the Ether, but they're gone. The planet doesn't say why. Lara frowned. Asterisk. If we're going to use the core, we need to understand their technology. One wrong move, and we could tear Clethera apart. The tribes. Gathered for another council, their voices quieter now, tempered by loss. Soren, the Sandweaver chief, was subdued, his doubt replaced by reluctant resolve. Lyrian, the Skyborn elder, spoke for her people, her voice steady despite the shame of Ren's betrayal. We stay, Lyrian said. But we need a plan, priestess. The Empire knows where we're at. They'll bring everything they have. Vera nodded. The planet's power is our only chance. Alara, Toron, tell us what you've found. Lara held up the shard, its light pulsing. Clethera's core is sentient, built by a race called the Ether. It's a network crystals, amplifiers, the spire all linked to a central intelligence. We've barely scratched its potential, but it's dangerous. We need to find more of their tech. Learn how they controlled it. Toron stood, his voice stronger now. The planet showed me a place, a buried city, deep in the northern wastes. It's where the Ether left their knowledge. If we go there, we'll find answers. Soren's eyes narrowed. The northern wastes, that's death trap storms. Sinkholes, no water. You're sending us on a fool's errand. Outcast. It's not a request, Vera said, her tone final. We go. Alara, Toron, you'll lead a team. I'll stay to hold the caves. The plan was set, but doubt lingered. As the tribes prepared, Alara and Toron ventured to the spire's chamber for guidance. The crystal walls hummed and a new vision gripped them. The Ether, their cities gleaming. Under alien stars, wielding Clethera's power to shape worlds. But the vision darkened war, betrayal, their civilization crumbling as the core turned against them. Why? Alara whispered, shaken. What went wrong? Toron's face was grim. They tried to control it. Clethera fought back. The planet's voice echoed. Trust, not control. Unite or fall. Aboard the Iron Dominion, Admiral Korath received reports. From his scouts, Cletheran's energy surges baffled his engineers, and the trader's information confirmed the caves as their stronghold. But Korath sensed weakness, desperation. They're hiding something, he told Viarin, his lieutenant. Deploy the infiltrators. Find their leaders. Break their spirit. Yarn nodded, dispatching elite operatives cloaked in stealth. Tech 2 slip into the caves. Their mission. So chaos, eliminate key figures, and locate the energy source. As Alara, Toron, and a small team of Stonekin and Skyborn set out for the northern wastes, the desert seemed to watch them. The journey was grueling, sandstorms battered their convoy, and the ground shifted unpredictably. Toron guided them, the planet's whispers leading him to a hidden canyon where ruins emerged from the dunes, spires of crystal and metal, half buried. Glowing faintly, this is it, Toron said, his voice awed. The Ether City. Alara's scanner went wild, detecting energy signatures unlike anything she'd seen. Inside a crumbling dome, they found a holo-archiver repository of Ether knowledge. It activated at their touch, projecting images of Clethera's creation. A seed planted by the Ether, grown into a sentient guardian to protect a key. A device capable of rewriting reality. The key's still here, Ilara realized. That's what the Empire wants. But the Archive warned of a failsafe. If misused, the key could destroy Clythera. The Aethera's downfall was their own arrogance. They tried to wield it without unity, and paid the price. As they downloaded the Archive's data, a shadow moved in the Runzan Imperial infiltrator, tracking them. What? Torin sensed it, the planet's voice warning him. We're not alone, he said, drawing his dagger. The infiltrator struck, a blur of stealth tech and blades. The team fought back, but the enemy was relentless, wounding a Stonekin warrior. Ilara used her crystal shard, sending a pulse that disrupted the infiltrator's cloak, allowing Torin to strike it down. We have to warn Vera, Ilara said, panting. The Empire's closer than we thought. Back in the caves, Vera felt a chill, the crystals dimming briefly. Something was wrong. As she rallied her warriors, the echoes of the Aethia's past lingered. A warning that Clythera's power could save them more, doom them all. The northern wastes were a graveyard of Aether ruins, their spires jutting like bones from the sand. Ilara clutched the Hull Archive's data core, its knowledge a lifeline for Clythera's survival. Torin led the team back to their convoy, the planet's whispers urging haste. The infiltrator's attack had shaken them, and the wounded Stonekin. Jaren leaned heavily on his brother, grimacing with each step. We can't stay here, Torin said, scanning the dunes. The Empire's watching. Ilara nodded, her mind racing. The Archive had revealed the key's location deep within Clythera's core, guarded by the spire. But activating it required a unified will, something the tribe still lacked. The Aethia's warning haunted her. Misuse the key. Clythera would turn on them, just as it had on its creators, as they trekked back. A sandstorm roared to life, unnatural and fierce. Torin closed his eyes, feeling Clythera's anger. Protecting us, he said, but it's warning us too. We're running out of time. In the sacred caves, Vera sensed the same unease. The crystals flickered, and her warriors reported strange noises, whispers. Not from the planet, but from within the tunnels. She tightened her grip on her spear, her instinct screaming danger. Double the guards, she told her lieutenant, a young Stonekin named Mira. Search every tunnel. No one rests until we're secure. But the Empire's infiltrators were already inside, their stealth tech masking them from Clytheran eyes. They moved like shadows, planting explosives and relaying coordinates to Viarin. Their target? Vera, the heart of the resistance. Aboard the Iron Dominion, Admiral Korath prepared his final assault. The infiltrators' reports confirmed the cave's layout and the Clytherans' reliance on crystal tech. He deployed his full fleet, dozens of warships, thousands of troops, and a new weapon, a seismic disruptor. Designed to fracture Clytheris, crust, and expose its core. They think their planet will save them, Korath said, his voice cold. We'll rip it apart. Viren hesitated. The energy source, it's unstable. If we trigger it, we could lose everything. Then we take it before they can use it, Korath snapped. No mistakes, Viren. Back in the caves, Anne. Explosion rocked the tunnels, collapsing a passage and trapping a dozen sandweavers. Vera led a rescue, her spear flashing as she cleared debris. But another blast hit, closer this time, and an infiltrator appeared. Its blade aimed at her heart. Mira tackled Vera aside, taking the strike. She fell, blood pooling, and Vera roared, driving her spear through the infiltrator's chest. Crystals flared, their light exposing to more enemies. Vera fought like a storm, her warriors joining her. But the damage was done. Mira was gone. The caves were compromised. We can't stay here, Lyrian said, her voice urgent. The Empire knows too much. Vera's eyes burned with rage. We moved to the spire. It's our last stand. As the tribes evacuated, Ilara and Torin reached the caves, only to find chaos. Vera met them, her armor bloodied, her face etched with loss. The key, Ilara said, breathless. It's in the core, but we need everyone, every tribe, every heart to activate it. Torin nodded, the planet's voice roaring. Unite or perish. The Aether failed because they were divided. We won't make their mistake. Vera looked at her people, broken but unbowed. Then we go to the core, she said. We fight as one. The tribes marched to the Spire's tunnel, the desert trembling under the Empire's advance. Korath's seismic disruptor fired, cracking the ground, sending shockwaves through Clithera's crust. The crystals screamed, and Torin staggered, blood trickling from his nose. It's tearing the planet apart, he gasped. We have to hurry. Alara rigged the amplifiers to channel the core's energy, a desperate gambit to counter the disruptor. The Spire glowed, its power surging, but it demanded more a sacrifice of will, of unity. The tribes gathered around it, their hands on the crystals, their voices rising in a chant led by Vera. For Clethera. She cried, and the tribes echoed her. Their fear giving way to defiance, the core responded, a pulse of light shooting through the planet. The disruptor's waves faltered, the desert stabilizing, but the Empire's fleet descended, their cannons blazing. Clethera's core was awake, but the final battle was here, and the key's power remained just out of reach. The Spire's chamber glowed with 1,000 crystals, their light pulsing like a heartbeat deep within Clethera's core. The tribe Stonekin, Sandweavers, Skyborn stood, shoulder to shoulder. Their hands on the crystal walls, their voices raised in a chant led by Vera. The air thrummed with energy. The planet's voice a constant hum in their minds. Unite or perish. Vera stood at the Spire's base, her armor scarred, her spear bloodied. She felt Clethera's strength, but also its warning. The key, the ancient Aether device, capable of rewriting reality, demanded unity, a harmony the tribes had never achieved. We are one, she shouted, her voice echoing. For Clethera, for our fallen, we fight. The tribes echoed her, their chant growing stronger, but doubt lingered in their eyes. The loss of Kale, Myra, and countless others weighed heavily, and the Empire's seismic disruptor had cracked the planet's crust. Sending tremors through the caves, Alara worked frantically at a crystal console, her hands wiring amplifiers. To the Spire, a holochive from the Aether ruins had given her blueprints complex, incomplete, but enough to amplify the core's power. She glanced at Torin, who knelt nearby, his body trembling from the strain of channeling Clethera's. Energy, Torin, you can't keep doing this, she said. The planet's draining you. His eyes, glowing faintly, met hers. It's not draining Mitt's choosing me. The key needs a conduit, Alara. I'm it. Before she could argue, the ground shook violently, dust raining from the ceiling. A Skyborn scout burst into the chamber, breathless. They're here. Warships, siege engines, thousands of troops. Vera gripped her spear. To the tunnels, hold the entrances.